You're watching The Wild Ones, a traveling series that spotlights people off the beaten path forging their own way. My name is Megan Koval, and I'm a pathfinder who went AWOL from the corporate world to launch my own remote branding business. Join me as I travel the world and meet people who share their daring pursuits and lessons along the way. What is your recipe for the ideal workspace? As a remote worker and location-independent enthusiast, my workspace is wherever my laptop is welcome. So while I spend my week here in Zurich, I've been working out of my Airbnb and eager to get out to visit my next guests for the Wild One series. Two doctors who may just have the perfect recipe. Meet Estefania Tapias and Laura Seifert, the two co-founders of WeSpace, a community, workspace, and digital platform inspired by women professionals to nurture leadership, collaboration, and innovation. Located in the heart of Zurich's business district, this gem is women-centric, but not women-only, allowing everyone to participate and co-create. Now, before we go any further, it's important to know these two things about Switzerland. One, it's a country where some women had to wait until 1991 to vote. And two, Switzerland has mandatory military service in the Swiss Army for all able-bodied male citizens. What does this have anything to do with workspaces? Everything. There's a lot to unpack in this week's episode, and I'm honored to share how these two wild ones are flipping the script to promote women camaraderie, equality, and entrepreneurship.
Thank you for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure to meet you here in Zurich and learn more about WeSpace. We realize that there's another co-founder, Laura, who might be joining us later. We might be hearing a little bit from her. But for now, I'm just really thrilled to go on a walking tour with you through Zurich. This is actually my first time in Zurich, cool. So I'm so thrilled that you're
walking now
around.
In the busiest street, which at this point is not so busy.
How do you pronounce it, by the way?
Bahnhofstraße.
Right. Say it one more time, a little slower.
Bahnhofstraße. Bahnhof means station, train station, and Straße is the street. So it's like the street of the train station, which is down the road.
Okay. So what made you decide to have your space here on this main street?
This street, the Bahnhofstraße, is actually where all the big banks are, the lawyer firms and the investment funds and so on. So actually it's traditionally a very prime location for business.
Okay.
And then we also thought, okay, we want to do like this whole community space and this whole idea, but really targeting working women and professional women, because we didn't want to convert it into a club or a place where you have drinks and do yoga, because we didn't want to send the wrong message there. So then that's also why we thought, okay, let's try to be in like a prime location where they feel that they are in a very high-end part of Zurich.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I love that you, when we first met, you corrected me and you really emphasized that this isn't just a co-working space, or it's not even a club, it's a community. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about what inspired you to start a community space here in Zurich.
We actually, at the beginning, we realized there was a lack of like a woman-centric community, or like a physical space where actually women could meet. Because traditionally in Zurich we see that, or in Switzerland we see like that there's this concept of brotherhood is very strong because of the army. Because men used to go are compulsory have to go to the army. And then they develop like this brotherhood idea of helping each other, or spending a lot of time with each other, and like really creating this strong bond. And that makes it also very good for them for networking and for their future professional career.
Right, the camaraderie.
Exactly. But there's not such thing for women here. So actually the gap between what actually men have as a networking setup, then from a woman, it's quite big, the gap. So then we thought, it would be interesting to test it out, to see if we can actually do something that compensate for women. And that's how we started. And then we started it first as the setup of a co-working, but then afterwards we realized that it's actually not only a co-working, but it should be like a woman-centric platform where, yes, we offer co-working because we have the physical space and because it's something that it's happening more and more often in the cities. But it's also where we offer a series of events, where we also offer networking, where we offer many other different services. So yeah, so then now we have like this bigger or like a more broad concept, which is based on a physical space.
Traditionally, we've only seen one woman on top, right? So that when you talk about how men have come together here and had that camaraderie, and so I love how you're flipping the script, and that's why I think of you as a wild one, right? Like you're really challenging those conventional structures. Actually telling women that they can come together, bring each other up, uplift each other instead of competing against each other.
Yeah.
And it actually shows in you starting and operating this space with another woman, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about what it's like to be a co-founder with a fellow entrepreneur, Laura.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I think that it has to be, I mean, for me, there was no option to do it alone because I like this feeling of being in a team and supporting each other. So in the bad days that you have someone that is there to kind of support you and be, I mean, if something goes wrong, that one, it's like keeping the stability somehow.
Yes.
And then, I mean, I started it actually alone, but I realized that I didn't want to do that alone. And then, yeah, and then I met Laura. We did like a tryout, a test of us working together. The moment we had a pop-up, because we did before we opened our space, we did a pop-up in a hotel.
Nice.
And that pop-up was actually also our test to see if we actually could work together. And it went super well. We were super happy at the end. I mean, not only the test, like the space test, but also the relation, like the working relationship with her. And yeah, and then afterwards we started it, and it's been super. It's been perfect. Like, I mean, of course you have your ups and downs, but yeah, but it's been very well. And then what I mentioned before, that I mean, there's some days that actually I'm like a bit. I mean, because entrepreneur life, it's like a roller coaster. One days you're up, and all the days you're down.
Yes.
And the good thing of having a co-founder or having someone that supports you is that when one is up, the other one is down. The other way around also happens. So I think it's very similar to what a romantic relationship works. That if one is down, the other one is trying to push that person up. And I think it works very similar with co-founders. So, but of course, you have to have a good relationship. You have to respect each other a lot, because I mean, if you don't respect each other, then it doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, when it works, it's the best thing you can do.
And you're also showing people like myself that want to come and use your space that your values are in line with your actions. So you're not just talking about building a community or working with women or nurturing female relationships. You're doing it every single day by having a female co-founder, right? And so to me, that's so symbolic that you call yourself WeSpace, and you, like the we's of you and Laura, are creating that space for people like myself. Have you ever thought about that before? Or is that what actually inspired the name?
Yeah, actually it was. We wanted to use the we word, not because it's very widely used lately in the world, but because the W represents woman, but it also represents we, and we as a community, as all of us. And that space, of course, it could be the physical space or also the metaphoric space where people come together. So actually that was the reason why we ended up with WeSpace. So it's actually without being very, like without putting the name woman, it's embedded somehow in the name without like really being very obvious about the word.
Tell me culturally why you're sensitive to making sure that it's not part of the name here in Zurich.
Because very important part of our concept is that we are a woman-centric, but we are not a woman only. So because we didn't want to come across exclusive, because that's, I mean, we don't want to solve the problem like with the same thing that started the problem, right?
Oh.
So then we thought, okay, we want to have like this center or this focus on women. We want to design something that is comfortable and that is thought for women, but doesn't mean that we want to exclude every other gender. So we also want to be inclusive and like welcome anyone that wants to participate or anyone that also feels comfortable.
What advice do you have for people that are pursuing an unconventional path or have identified maybe a frustration where they are, similar to what you've identified, but don't yet know how to take action or don't yet know how to build something to overcome that frustration? What advice do you have for them when they're sitting in that moment of frustration?
I think just try things out. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect for you to launch something. You can always test ideas, like talk to people about it. I mean, we actually did a pop-up because we were not so sure about it, and we didn't know if actually people would like this kind of idea in Zurich. And I mean, if you can test it without spending so much money, or actually without spending any money, and just like tried it out, I think it's worth it. I mean, doesn't need to be something completely perfect, but enough for you to have like create an idea if it will work or not.
So it almost sounds like give yourself that permission to play and experiment. It sounds like you had a really interesting experimental flair when you talked to Laura and you're like, let's just try this pop-up and see if it works. Was that an unusual mindset for you, or did it take a lot of new mindset and willpower to have that kind of perspective in the world, to be able to just go for it?
Well, I think that I have that kind of in my personality, and because I used to be a scientist before, and in science you have to be curious and you have to try things out and try it until either it works or until you realize it's actually not working, and then you move on to the next thing.
What motivated you to leave and start your own entrepreneurial path?
I think that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I always wanted to be in science. So I battled at some point of what to do and what to study. And I mean, my background is also completely different. I study architecture, and then I did city planning, and I worked a lot in sustainability topics. And then I went, that's why I went into science. So I already had a big kind of change.
And you're also a secret fitness guru. You just hiked up those stairs, said your sentence perfectly, and didn't breathe. I'm like, I'm listening and I'm breathing so hard. Wow, this is pretty. Do you have a daily action or something that keeps you going on this path that you would recommend for other aspiring entrepreneurs or even freelancers or people that are trying to carve their own path?
Oof. I mean, persistence. I mean, you will hear this with every entrepreneur. I mean, I think persistence is the most important thing, because there will be days that you won't see the light anymore. And it could not only be 1 day, but 2 days, 3 days, 1 week. But then there's always going to be a light outside the tunnel.
Yes.
So I think and then the moment that you see it, and then that it's already like good things coming, it feels 10 times better than anything else. So I think that's why they say that entrepreneurship is a roller coaster.
Yes.
Because when you're up, you're like in the sky. When you're down, you're really down. But I mean, it's worth it at the end of the day.
And what do you like about being off the beaten path and challenging all those things as they are now to change them for the future?
It feels great, actually.
Yes?
Yeah, it feels that you're actually doing something with a purpose.
Yes, absolutely. Purpose, knowing your why, knowing what you stand for, and waking up every morning having something to aspire towards is so necessary.
Yeah.
I think also for persistence as someone going on this path, knowing your why, having that answer, and just if it's something so small as making someone smile or changing someone's perspective or bringing people together and starting a community space, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It all ladders back to that why.
At this point, we head back to WeSpace, where we sit down with Dr. Laura Seifert and hear her perspective on a few of these topics. Where Dr. Estefania Tapias comes from a traditional science background, Dr. Laura Seifert is a former investment banker at JP Morgan. Committed to developing and shaping initiatives that support equality, I was keen to speak with her about her experience in entrepreneurship, leadership, and advancing women.
For me, I've always felt I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I never really had an idea that I was passionate about and that I felt makes sense and that I really cared about. So, and also another fact is actually that I've never felt it was the right moment. You know how you never really feel that you've learned enough or you're educated enough, you have enough work experience, and and then I also didn't have the right partner. So, also I don't think it's. You need to have a very complementary skill set, and also it's not necessarily a journey that you want to embark on with someone that you know for a long time, or it's a very personal friend. So I thought it was just the perfect setting, actually, that when we were introduced to each other, we are very different but still get along perfectly, and I think it clicked immediately. I think that we share the passion and the vision for WeSpace, and that is something that was super meaningful in a way that it's a great initiative, also something that's really changing people's lives, and that I feel passionate about, that is doing something good and at the same time is a business model that can work. So I think it's quite rare to find that all at once. So that's why, for me personally, I decided to take the jump.
You guys have such a unique combined skill set, both having PhDs, both being classic researchers, right? And seeing the need in this space to actually build something, but then also having that really entrepreneurial, experimental mindset. So talk to me about what it's like to kind of have both of those things, where you know there's an opportunity, but you also have that perspective where you're just going to go for it and you're just going to take a risk. What's it like to have both of those mindsets?
Well, I mean, talking about like science and entrepreneurship, I think for both you have to be curious, otherwise it doesn't work. And you also have to be wanting to test things and like play around and like having like a lab. Not literally, but like that it's a lab, and then you're trying things out, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't matter, you change it until actually either it works or it doesn't, but you have to be curious, and for both ventures you have to be curious. So I think that's very important.
To be an entrepreneur, you have to be ready to make mistakes, like open to make mistakes, and that's something that is also a bit of a learning process. Really to reinvent your product and your startup over and over again, and be flexible and move on, think outside the box, and that's something that I have perceived to be quite key.
Absolutely, and especially your background, you come from a traditionally male-dominated spaces, right? Like working in finance and investing. How has that actually helped your perspective or guided this path of starting WeSpace?
Well, I've seen that there were just very few women all over the industry, so I think that's already when I realized that there is somehow an issue or at least a potential for improvement, and I've just felt that this is a matter that I really wanted to explore more, and that to understand and to develop solutions. For me, it's really about the community, so it's really about this network and community that we offer, that you can tap into. And I think that, for example, we've seen in some cases that women were employed and they came here and then they've quit their jobs and to really follow their passion and create their own vision and startup and so on. And I think that the community is important really to be there because it's a roller coaster, yes. And we're all on this together, so that it's
you really... can see similar arguments between the two of us.
Same thing. She actually said like when she was high or you were low and she was high, she brought you back up, and you guys, it's like a seesaw. Like you constantly help each other. And vice versa. Why that's
and that's exactly the idea also with the community, that you've seen other people also have ups and downs, and that you kind of experience it together, and that the community is also a good way to source customers or suppliers or just friends. So it's really important to network, and that's what we want to provide.
Yeah.
To learn more about the brave work Dr. Estefania Tapias and Dr. Laura Seifert are paving here at WeSpace, visit wearewespace.com or find their venture on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at wearewespace. Thanks for watching this week's Wild One series. That was Estefania and Laura from WeSpace Zurich. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tune into next week's episode, where I visit the FIFA World Football Museum in Zurich to view the jersey collection from my favorite Parisian fashion designer and friend, Claire Dartis. Then, as the stars align, we happen to be in Paris at the same exact time the following week, where we wrap up our interview in her favorite neighborhood in Paris.